haven't been out there in a long while. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Parks Advisory Board meeting for February. We're going to look at the minutes first and get those improved. I think you've had them for a little bit of time. If you've had a chance to read them, is there anybody that's willing to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I've got a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion, any typos, anything else that needs to be changed? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes from last month, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is approved. Christie, I didn't realize you weren't here.
I'm here.
Did we
I
have
had
a
to take a
quorum?
phone call.
Yes.
Sorry.
We
I
had-
was
we
here
had a
and then I
quorum?
walked out
Okay.
and now I'm back.
All right.
Aye to the minutes.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna receive an update on the Parks and Rec activities and facilities.
So that,
No, we don't.
let me go. If you want to go grab her, but I can go ahead and start because I know we're starting a little bit late. In theory, I can start.
We can skip forward if you prefer.
Here we go. Minutes. So, I don't know if many of y'all have noticed. So one of our big updates is Liberty Hall right now. Joy, I'll start and I'll hand it back off to you. So Liberty Hall, we had some damage during our last freeze last month. It was much more extensive than we thought it was going to be, despite the fact that we turned up the heat, turned off all the water to the entire building, drained all the pipes. We still had every single fixture in the bathrooms actually crack and break. The plumbing under the building all broke and had some pretty catastrophic damage. And of course, all of the plumbing is within the walls, and so water leaked out everywhere. Part of the reason that happened is because both of our AC units, despite heat being on, froze solid, so that building got very, very cold. And even the tiniest little bit of water stuck in those P-traps or any of the fixtures broke everything. Our estimate that we got from our contractors is $46,000, and believe it or not, that is the low bid. This is a project that will be partially covered by our insurance. They are giving us $27,409 to cover some of the work. We will be doing a budget amendment to try to get the remainder of the funds out of our general reserve so we can open back up the building. So Liberty Hall, we do rent it out for birthday parties, we use it for community events, we use it for some of our programs, so it really is an essential building for us to get back open. So if you hear any complaints from the public, we are working as fast as we can trying to get that done. It's always a little slower when it's an insurance project because we have to go through several layers of bureaucracy. But as soon as we get that budget amendment done, which we hope to have in the next 2 weeks on a city council agenda, we hope to move forward with that. So for the time being, we are still telling people the prices to rent, you know, what our policies are, but not currently taking rentals. And we've canceled all the rentals for all of March and through April because once city council approves, most of our contractors have said this is about a month-long project. So we want to make sure people have enough time to find new locations for their baby showers, birthday parties, things of that nature. So that's been a big headache that we've been dealing with.
I'm sure the insurance policy or how we determine what insurance we buy is determined somewhere else because it's not a park-specific thing. But
Correct.
how do we determine what level of coverage we've got on the facilities like this?
So I can double check on that, but we have, city has TML, our Texas Municipal League insurance. And so we go through TML, and I know there's different policies for, covering our staff as far as, injury and accident, facilities, but I don't know the exact levels on those, but I can definitely check on that.
Well, I'm just curious if somebody's actually looked at what they claimed they would reimburse and made sure it fit with the policy we had. Have we actually looked into that?
I don't know. I can check with HR because we have a risk management person who does that. We did have an insurance adjuster that came out and looked at the building specifically with this damage.
Right.
And looked at all our estimates, and that was the reimbursement we were going to
I'd
get.
just like to know somebody with the critical eye looked at from our side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We can do that. Absolutely.
All right.
And Joy, I'll let you keep going with the youth basketball. Tell me later.
Okay, so we just finished our youth
I have a
basketball.
question, I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, $20,000 out of pocket, and so has there been something put in place, or some point person put in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future? Obviously, we can protect it better than that, it just happened, I understand, my house freezes too. But, is there somebody that's in charge of that, or somebody that's gonna be in charge to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Because that's a pretty good league, I mean, that's a pretty big hit for us, so I'm just curious, is that something we can avoid in the future by, doing a little prep work ahead of time?
Yes, and that's part of the reason some of these prices are a little higher as far as the repair is that it's going from, I believe it's copper pipe under the building to that either PVC or the, yes, yeah, the PEX.
Good information.
Yeah, so that way, you know, if we're gonna have to fix it, we might as well fix it the right way, so we don't have to do this again every time. And then, of course, there's gonna be some things on our emergency management side that if we have buildings like this that we know are prone to freeze, you know, we have people that, if they're able to go out during any kind of ice event, low temperatures, you know, as long as they're not driving on pure ice sheets, they can go out and check the building and see if the ACs have turned off. In this case, it froze over, so I'm not sure what we could have done, but, you know, at least if we would have known that sooner, we could have taken some other measures.
Well, I'm just glad you're taking steps to do, you know, put the
Absolutely.
flex in and stuff, because we
Yeah.
gotta,
Especially-
you just keep paying for that every time it freezes, so.
Yeah, and especially with this, because we're having to open the walls, do all the plumbing, and then close it back up. It's like, so I don't wanna have to open the walls multiple times, because that was, a lot of the cost was the construction portion of it, as far as ripping everything down, redoing the piping, then putting it back like it
Thank you.
used to look.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Go ahead, Jo. Sorry.
No, you're good. So the youth basketball league just completed their season. They had their championships on Saturday. So they are totally complete for this year, so they'll be back again next winter. And upcoming for spring, we will have our spring break camp. It is still open for registration. We do have quite a few registrants, but is not completely full yet. And then in April, we have our corporate challenge coming up, and that is where companies throughout the Nacogdoches can use it as like a team building opportunity. And city staff, we have teams in there, but we also compete against other staff from other companies throughout the city. And we've had a pretty good interest so far, so we will have more understanding of how many people or how many teams will actually have signed up come the end of March, and then that will begin in April. And then our upcoming spring sports, we have our youth girls volleyball, which we have closed registration. They actually are starting their practices next week, and we have a total of 131 players this time. And for our adult softball for the spring, we also have 9 teams for that one. And then our adult soccer is still open for registration, so we don't have an exact number for that one as of yet. You guys have any questions? And then for our park updates, Moroni Playground, we talked about this a little bit last time, and we did receive the original plans from Leathers and Associates and submitted a damage report to them. And they will be giving us an estimate on the updated plans, construction documents, projects, and they're gonna be doing the whole project as they did before, since they had done it before, and we have all the plans, they're gonna be able to do that again.
And the great thing about this company is they specialize in community-built playgrounds, which is how this playground was built. So once they give us, you know, some updates, some pricing, it's gonna be updating the plans, dealing with any donations, and then overseeing volunteers, on-site management, so that way we can still have that community-built aspect, and we can ask our community to get involved again. I'm very excited about it. The only thing that I think is gonna make y'all a little sad, is I know it was a big desire to replace that little bumpy car, they call it. They actually don't do those anymore because they are safety hazards, turns out. A lot of pinched fingers, and then they try not to use as many tires anymore, just as we figure out like what kind of chemicals are in tires. So that, I did tell them, okay, give me a few other updates. It would be similar to that little bouncy car, but since they don't do that one, that's not really an option for us anymore. But once they give us a price, we'll come back to y'all as far as, you know, we may have 3 different options to put in the spot.
Wasn't there some insurance coverage on that as well?
Yes, there is.
Did we get a number? Have we already gotten it?
Not for that one, we haven't. They basically said, send us what your costs are gonna be. We do have a local company that's interested in donating the wood, which would be wonderful. So I think more of the insurance cost is gonna be covering any of the insurance we have to carry on volunteers, redoing the project scope, and then whatever fee we would pay Leather and Associates. So I don't think we're gonna have a ton of construction cost if we can get volunteers and wood donations. So knock on wood, we may be able to get out of this a little bit cheaper than we anticipated.
That's great.
Yeah, and they were very excited. They said they still use this park as an example of a community-built playground that went really well. And they were like, yeah, it's the Castle Park. I'm like, well, it's not what we call it, but yes.
There's a lot of names.
Yeah, there's a lot of names for it. But they were very excited about it. I just told them you guys might be disappointed that we can't do the little car thing anymore.
Right.
But there's got to be other options.
The park restrooms, so Moroni Park restroom has been open. I don't know, if you guys have seen the posts and other things that people have been saying, they just very excited. And Festival and Pecan are also reopened after, they also had some freeze issues, and they've been repaired and ready to go. Sportsplex is still waiting for their water line, but that should be installed this week. And, we talked about last time, you all wanted us to give you some information on cost of repairs for vandalism that's happened in the park's restrooms thus far, and that amount is less than $100. I do have exact receipts that Tommy has given me, but basically it was just some paint and screws or
Well, we took those, adult changing tables down off the walls and put bigger lags in them, cause they wasn't, what they had holding it on the wall wouldn't
Did you
hold
say
it.
adult changing table?
Yes.
Okay,
And so we put bigger lags in the wall,
yeah,
so,
adult flags.
big ones. They'll hold me up now,
Okay.
I'm a big old boy.
Yeah, and with the Moroni Park restroom, if y'all don't follow NAC Parks and Recreation on Facebook, I encourage you to. We did a funny picture. We did a toilet paper ribbon cutting the other day, just to kind of poke fun at ourselves that one took a little while, and we were very excited to open that restroom. And people got very excited about the fact that we used toilet paper as a ribbon, which was very hard to do.
Question. So back to the freezing, those are all brand new bathrooms, and there was stuff that broke, what broke?
So we had a water heater in each one of them that broke, because it was the water heater just mounted on the wall and didn't have any insulation around it. Our plumber for that job came back and replaced them because they should not have broke, and did additional installation. So it didn't cost us anything because they're not even officially done really. And then we had 1 or 2 valves on
Yeah,
sinks.
Just the valves on the sinks, those button valves, the casing of them, the body of them cracked. We took the lines off of them and all of that, but we didn't take them completely apart. So we'll know next time to take them completely apart.
I broke my whole sprinkler system like that, not doing that, so
We
I
thought,
learned the first time.
we thought taking the lines off, cause water drained out of them, but there was still some water in there that froze and cracked those bodies of those little valves.
And we did prep for the dog park water fountains for the freeze, and those were turned off, but now they're back on. And the Lake Nacogdoches accessible walkway the construction for that is in progress right now. And you guys have a flyer in your packet there that is the next Park Beautification Day, which is gonna be March 9th, and that's gonna take place at the Lake Nac West Park.
And one thing to note, if y'all are out at Lake Nacogdoches, of course, we're doing the accessible walkway. If y'all see people crossing the construction line, can you gently remind them, please don't do that? We had people that, I went out there to check the construction this weekend, and I saw them hopping over the lines and trying to walk down to certain areas. And I'm like, there's still a way to get to the swimming area right now, even though it's February. There's people out there on Saturday. But we just gently encourage them to please go and park up at the top and walk down the ADA accessible way, because you can still get to the swimming area. We just ask them not to run past all the dozers and down our pretty new dirt that's finally leveled and waiting for asphalt right now. So just encourage them not to cross those if you see that while you're out there.
There was more vehicles out there this past Saturday than I've ever seen.
There was
Yes.
Yeah, we had a fishing tournament. I think it was a kayak
Yeah,
fishing.
A kayak
But with
fishing.
everybody else, I mean, I went to the west side, nowhere to park. East side, I had to park and turn off the grass up there and walk. I ain't never seen that.
Good problem to have.
Parks.
Yeah, because we had that fishing tournament, and then a lot of the disc golf community was out there for a work day for the Iron Leaf course. So we tend to give the lake a lot of love around this time of the year, because as soon as summer hits, it gets very, very popular, which is great.
There's still people down there Saturday where they were working on the spillway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like people they don't pay attention, they just go right on.
I do. They're a little bit everywhere.
Okay, was that it for the update on the Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Okay, item 4, we're gonna table for now to discuss options in relation to the use of city bond. We're a little ahead of ourselves there, and we need to wait for city council directed actions to happen before we can really jump into that. So we're gonna gonna just skip on to number 5. Number 5, discuss and consider park restroom security. If you remember, we were concerned with the idea that whether or not the restrooms in the parks needed to be locked when the parks are closed, and we were worried about damages, and that's why they reported the amount of damages that were done since the beginning of the park. Since the opening of the restrooms, I believe. Did you guys have any other things you wanted to add to this conversation before we get started?
Sure. Do you want to go through it, Joy? Or do you want
So we kind of just put together like a little spreadsheet that we thought might be helpful for you all, based on some things that have been talked about. So the first one is we briefly talked about what would be an option of security cameras as well as security monitoring. And the top line, that would be the price that would be per year with the monitoring of the cameras and having the license to have them. The second line is how much it would cost to install them as a one-time fee. So that $10,772, that's the one-time fee, but the top line, that would be our yearly fee. So that first year, obviously, it would be $23,771, but then after the first year, it would only be $12,000. And again, that's for all 11.
Yeah.
And that would not necessarily be what would be chosen. Then for a city employee, which we've decided we need between 2 and 3 positions, and that price per, that's the amount it would cost per employee for a part-time position. And then the total cost, that's depending on if we had 2 or 3, between about $30,000 to about $45,000 to have the 2 to 3 employees. And then the bottom line is the automatic locks, which we have discussed previously in the past, and those are going to be about $3,500 per. And the reason that there's only 4 listed there is we would only need to retrofit our 4 that we currently have, but we could build that into construction costs for any of the new ones.
And the automatic locks, that's actually a new system that Maglock just came out with, and it's specifically designed for park restrooms, where they have it where it's 2 doors, there's a push to exit, so if someone was inside and the door's locked, they can push from the inside to exit. We can set the times and dates for locking, so if for some reason you needed a park restroom to lock at 10 p.m. on Wednesday and 5 p.m. on Thursday, we could set that up. So we do have that option, and that is a Maglock one, which we talked to our architect and our construction company. They both said that could be installed. There's cheaper ways to do it if we do have future restrooms where we put it as part of the construction. And so that way your cost is a little bit lower, but this would be to retrofit the 4 existing restrooms we have. And this is just one Maglock system. There are multiple, automatic door locking systems, so this may not be the exact price, but it's the best looking one that we've seen so far.
So when you consider the employee locking and unlocking the bathroom twice a day, you think it would cost $30,000 to $40,000 a year to do that?
To have enough positions, yes.
Because
Okay.
the way we're figuring that on the staff side is, if it takes, in theory, and I haven't driven all of these parks and timed it, but if you are having someone come in from 8 to 10 p.m. and lock, and then 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and unlock, in theory, that really can't be one person, because I don't know the person you're going to find that's going to work a schedule like that. And so you'd hopefully have someone to work in the evening or in the morning, but then that also has that person working every evening 365 days a year. So our thought was kind of having 3 people, so that way you have a rotating schedule, so you aren't trying to find a part-time person that can work every evening, every day of the year. Is kind of how we came up with the 2 to 3 positions.
Now, is that for all 11 bathrooms?
No, the 2 to 3 positions, that's our estimation right now.
For 11 bathrooms?
That would be for our 4 currently. Since at the time when we pulled all this together, the bond hadn't gone through yet. We haven't determined exactly when those restrooms will be placed. We determined that would be to lock all 4 from right now. I assume it will be more if there's 11, but again, we haven't driven every single one of them and tested how long that would take. So I would assume with 11 restrooms, you'd go up to possibly 5 positions. And of course, that's an estimation.
So the automatic locks are triggered remotely, or are they on a timer,
They're on a
inside the
timer.
lock- Inside the lock?
Yeah, so the way most of these are set up, and I looked at the schematic today, most of them are installed in your chase in the middle of the bathroom, and then it controls the locks on either door. So we would go through and set it. If there was some schedule change, we'd have to physically go out there and set it, but it stays set to that schedule as long as you have it there.
Okay.
And it has a battery backup as well.
That
Um,
14,000, is that per year, each year on that as well?
For the automatic locks?
No,
No,
that's
that
the
is
one
just buying the equipment and then the installation.
One-time?
Yeah, I believe the Maglock themselves are about $1,000 per set, and that covers 2 doors. So essentially $500-ish per door. And then the costs on these are a little higher for the installation because we're having to go in and retrofit and fit the electrical where it wasn't necessarily meant to be. So if it's something that we can put in any future restrooms during our, drawings and constructions, then really it would just be a little bit of cost for the electrician, but they'd be out there anyway, and then just buying the Maglock system. So yeah, that $1,400 is just covering installing everything for those 4 restrooms. 14,000, excuse me. So that would just be a one-time cost.
But that doesn't do anything to curb the homeless issue, because, in bigger cities, I've found out that they just peg the doors, people that have those locks, and so I think, this is just me talking, I haven't been here in 3 months, so if there's redundancy here, I'm sorry, but if you put a body on the property, that represents a lot more than a locked door. So I just think, originally, when I first brought this up, that I think a body, I know it's gonna take some people, but I think if it's organized well enough, that we don't have to stretch one person from one end of the city to the other. But I believe I would, as a taxpayer, I'd be willing to pay for security in the bathrooms, knowing that there's not gonna be any homeless people inside those things doing their things that they do all night long. And the vandalism, which obviously hasn't been that much. But, I would be for, researching, do the drive and find out how long it takes to drive these, and I'd be willing to help with that, and hobble back and forth. But find out what it would cost, because I think a body is gonna be much more, it's gonna be out there, it represents the city, and the homeless people they're not gonna run away from a locked door, they're gonna run away from a person, with a flashlight.
Yeah, and that was definitely one, because I reached out to several other Parks and Rec communities about like what they do with their public restrooms, and some of them said the automatic locks were great. Other ones said, people figured out what times the restrooms closed and they propped the doors open, or they got upset they couldn't get in and they graffitied the outside. Some people said automatic locks are great. So I don't think it's a one size fits all. We were pretty interested in the security camera angle, because if there's, and of course it'd be security cameras outside the doors. So that way if someone goes to walk in after hours and does go inside, it automatically calls our dispatch. We were kind of interested in that, because that way, it's actually a police officer that goes out there, responds to someone being in there, and can actually escort someone off the property. And since it does video, if someone goes out there, tags it real fast and runs away, we have a picture of what they look like. So I don't think there's any perfect solution. I think
Yeah.
if people want to do something dumb, they're going to find a way to do something dumb.
On the cameras, wasn't there some talk about, some other areas putting in camera systems and us maybe going in with them as far as getting bids?
I wasn't here last time, so I'm not 100% sure.
There was other city departments that potentially might be talking about it. We don't have any other information as of right now, but there have been other city, I know that the person that I was talking to was also talking to Animal Services, and so there are other departments that it's a possibility, but nothing, we haven't really gone anywhere.
So, I wanna get this straight. We're talking about $100 worth of damage and paying anywhere from $14,000 a year. Does that not seem like we're using a bazooka to kill a mouse? I mean, we're talking very little damage here, people. Do we have any true crimes yet through the police statistics that indicate that crimes of violence or anything like this besides petty vandalism is occurring? Because the honest truth is, if we're talking $100 for this many a year, this is a big cost to offset a $100 loss.
That can be fixed with.
And to answer some of your question, we don't have any reports of any violent crime or anything like that. We have a little bit of mischief here and there. The other day, someone sent us a picture of Maroney Park bathroom. They're like, they've already graffitied the front door, and it turns out someone had smeared strawberry ice cream on the front. And Tommy's guys went out there and cleaned it, and thank goodness it didn't stain or anything like that. So we've had small incidents of that, and as far as the actual graffiti or anything of that nature, like Tommy mentioned, we had a purple smiley face painted on the inside, and then that adult changing table that was on the ground when we went in one day. We don't know if those bolts weren't sufficient and someone did fall from that. We hope that's not the case, or if it was some sort of vandalism. But as far as where we can weigh on in, we haven't seen any crimes or anything called in that we have been made aware of.
So back to the question of why are we, I mean, we talked about this because we thought originally the bathroom vandalism was really bad and really a big deal, and that's when all this came up. But like you just said, a smear of a paintbrush and 2 leg bolts fixed the one and only problem we've had since fall. And so why are we gonna spend $14,000, $30,000, $40,000? I mean, it's not washing. To me, it doesn't wash until it becomes a chronic issue.
Well, if you're just interested in vandalism, yes, but there's a homelessness issue too. Back when I had 2 legs and could walk around, I was going to the bathrooms every night, checking them. I found homeless people at 3 out of 4 bathrooms.
But they're not damaging anything. They're not.
Okay,
they're not-
that's fine with Danny,
they're
but
not
I don't want
hurting
people sleeping in our bathrooms at night. I don't think that's appropriate,
So
I don't
you're
think that's
willing to
good.
spend more than 140 times more in damage to stop this? In terms of, and I quote, saving the taxpayers money, are we? Because this has been your rallying cry
Absolutely.
since you've been on this board. It is 140 times more a year currently.
I'm interested in protecting what we have. I'm not interested in having homeless people sleeping in our bathrooms. And if everybody wants that, hey, you got my vote, go ahead with it. But if you just wanna leave them to the public and let them do what they want to, I can't stop that. But I think we should really take a close look at taking care of it.
And one thing to add as far as the vagrancy issue in Nacogdoches, I know that our Nacogdoches Police Department is starting some special, I don't know if it's a unit per se, but they are starting some special projects that they are gonna do some targeted enforcement, looking at some of the frequent flyer crimes that we have in town. I know some of them's like, I'm sure y'all have seen them enforcing our school district speeds, and really kind of harping on that lately, which has been great. I know they have mentioned looking into some of the vagrancy issues in town and figure out how we mitigate that. So I know our police department is going to start looking at that. I don't know what that looks like exactly, and I'm happy to get more information on that. So I know that has been an issue that's been brought up, and not just in parks, but all over the community. So I know the police department has that on their radar and will be looking into it, and I can get some specifics on what their mitigation issues look like.
And my concern was most of our parks after 9 o'clock, after dark, are empty. People and the kids go home. I was worried about someone going in there innocently just to use the bathroom, and it looked like an assault trap to me. You got heavy doors, you could yell, no one's gonna hear you hollering for help. And I know it's 14,000, but if we can stop one assault from happening, 14,000's cheap.
Not to point out the obvious though, at 9 PM, the doors will still be unlocked. You know what I mean? We're not talking past 10 PM here. At 10 PM, the parks are supposed to be closed under city ordinances, meaning that us regular citizens shouldn't be going there.
The park's
So
supposed to be
therefore,
closed, yes.
Vigilance happens on both sides.
But I can tell you that, I see people using the trail at 10 o'clock at night, they've just got their flashlights. Tommy with his sign next to a landslide waiting to happen, and people just go right by it.
Well,
I may have gray hair now, but I know it goes on after 10 o'clock. Young kids, they're still out there and around till 3 or 4 in the morning.
just to clarify things a little bit, obviously, this is just an advisory board. We're not making decisions
Right.
that involve the city's expenses or rules or regulations they want to set up. But I don't think, what I was hoping we would get out of this is just whether or not we could come to a consensus as to whether or not we felt the restrooms should be locked when the parks are closed. If that generally is how the advisory board feels, I just wanted that related to city council so they could know that we felt like that was an appropriate, effort. I think the city council, I'm not speaking for them, but I think the city council, is probably fine with receiving our input there, because this has kind of been dumped on them a bit, and they were building bathrooms, and they weren't here when that was all, going on, some of them, and so I just wanted to know how we felt, and if we could relay that to the city council. I think that's the first step. I don't know that we have to pick, I love the work you did here. I actually, would probably lean towards the locks myself, but, I think we need to let the city council know we, recommend that the bathrooms be closed at closing time, whatever that is, or not. We don't have to do that either, but that's where I thought we were headed with this. Does anybody have any feelings about what I just said?
Well, and I agree with you, and I agree there should be a closing time, and if it was my city park and my bathrooms, I'd do the automatic lock thing.
Yeah.
And hope that by the time we got around to doing the automatic lock, if the door was blocked open, that the automatic lock wouldn't work. It would have an alert system that would ring a phone at the police department and say, this door is we can't lock this door. So that would be, because then that's a one-time done expense.
Okay, so,
Personally, I don't think the questions are unconnected in terms of expense and locking them. I think one is implicit in the other.
you said expense and locking them?
Yep, I think they're implicitly tied together.
I think that's fair. I'm not arguing that, but we're an advisory board.
Yeah, oh, I agree.
So we don't have to, even though I would like to think that we have, some say in expense, and we do try to keep the cost as low as possible, we don't obligate the city in any way.
Fair enough.
And they don't have to follow our advice. We're just here to give them our opinion as citizens. So, can I?
Which we deeply value, by the way. I just want to make sure y'all know that we do deeply value
So,
the
I
input.
I would like to entertain a motion to recommend to the city council that the restrooms be closed when parks, are closed. But I don't think I can offer the motion, so one of y'all needs to offer the motion.
Because the chair, you cannot, you need one of them.
I'm not offering, I'm saying I would like to, if that's available, I'd like that. If not, we'll move on.
Well, I make the motion.
I offer to table this motion until we have a full board here so we can have everybody weigh in.
It's not necessary with the quorum here.
Well, I agree with that.
Okay. You said you agree with that?
I agree that we
Yeah.
don't need based on.
Yeah, I don't think this is controversial. I hear what you're saying, but I just don't think this is controversial. We're only giving our impression, our opinion here.
Sometimes a signal is best sent when everybody is there and everyone is voting.
I haven't had everybody here for quite a while.
That is also an issue, but that is another conversation for another
I
day.
didn't point, I was just saying. So you have a motion for me?
I make a motion that we, why don't you rehash what you just said so I can word it better?
Okay, well, I was recommending your motion say, that we, recommend to the city council that, restrooms in the parks be closed at the closing time of the park, something to that effect.
I will use that wording, and
It wasn't very good.
we can leave it open to, we haven't made any, like you said, any decisions, but we do want to make sure that the parks are closed at 10 o'clock, I think is the closing
I think
date.
it's 10.
Yes.
Parks, and that the locks should be locked, and whatever means we do that.
Okay, I've got a motion as such. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional, discussion concerning this? If not, all in favor, raise your hand if you're in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to 3.
I vote present.
Present?
Yes.
Okay, any opposed? One present. Oh, wait, was there any opposed? Hands up.
I don't have it. I think I would like to hear from the police department on their thoughts on it.
Okay.
Because I think that's a perspective that we haven't,
You're a little late to say that.
Okay, well, can I comment on that? I did go speak with the chief about this.
Okay.
And, you're hearing it secondhand, obviously, because you're hearing it from me, but the chief said that there was a couple of different options. These were some of the options, the locks and stuff, but he said that they would be willing to put extra patrols, make more rounds through the bathrooms. And they said that any given time, there's 200 homeless people in Nacogdoches, and that, you know, we went with the locks, we talked about the locks, and we talked about the personnel, and we also talked about the, what was the team?
CERT.
The CERT team, using that as an option, but we decided that, or I should say, they decided that that wasn't gonna be one of their responsibilities, because they're used for events and stuff. And so this is pretty much what they're gonna tell you. I mean, you're welcome to go talk to him, but, that was the first thing I did was went and talked to them, to the police chief, and he said the locks and patrolling and the cameras.
So I get that he presented these options, but did he indicate that this was an issue that needed to be addressed?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, no, they saw with pictures and, you know, when I was actively going around and taking pictures of people at 3 o'clock in the morning and midnight of people in the parks and sleeping and going in and out of bathrooms, they knew it was a problem. But the problem is they can't, if by the time you call them on something, they're 10 minutes away and the problem's gone. So, you know, he said presence is the answer, and they'll do a lot more drive-arounds. He did say that. He said they would make sure.
Well, I don't know if you know, but the police force is way down right now.
Oh, I know, but I know that.
That's not really a feasible option to put it on the police force, and
Right.
I'm with Dawn in that, is it, like, I've lived here for 25 years, I'm female, so I feel like y'all are talking about females a lot, and you're saying that the homeless people are dangerous and there's gonna be sexual assaults happening in the bathrooms. And in all the years that we've had restrooms here, they've been unlocked, and this has not been an issue until very recently. And the vandalism, I understand from a standpoint of like, oh, we just built these nice new restrooms and someone vandalized it. Okay, so we got the data on that, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. So back to, do I think that the restrooms, would I make a recommendation that the restrooms could be locked in the evenings? Yes, but that's as far as I'm willing to go, and to not suggest. And all of these options, I think that the personnel one is the least feasible one, because you're dealing with human beings at that point, and sickness and quitting, and there's just like so many factors that go into something like that.
I would feel very uncomfortable asking a part-time person to be the security. I would feel very uncomfortable doing that. I think you would have a hard time filling positions if that was a requirement.
Because I will say this, I live off of Park Street, so every day I have a dog. So every day we leave, go down the trail, circle the soccer field, come back up Mound Street, go down Logansport, go to Pecan Park, go across the street, go to the college, and then we turn around and we come back basically the same route. I have been here a year and more than a half, and Brian,
Brian.
Brian told me when I first came here, he said, you know, because I said, my husband was concerned about me doing all that walking all by myself. And Brian says, you know what, we really don't have any issues. And I was kind of like, and he said, and you know why I know that? Because we don't have any issues. And we have a homeless person here and a homeless person there. But we basically even know where the homeless people are. And they're not where you walk past those bathrooms. And I mean, last night I walked, sometimes I go all the way to go around the softball complex to pick up trash. And it's like, there's a ton of people there.
Yeah.
But there's there's people walking and running and biking and the whole ball of wax, and there's just not any threat. I just never feel threatened.
Okay, I need to clear something up. Christie, you said that I threw this on the police. I didn't even bring the police up. That was brought up here, and I commented
But
on it.
you went to the police chief and had a
Absolutely. No,
conversation
absolutely.
outside of this board's
Oh, absolutely.
advice or
And
anything,
I
so you
told these
did
people
it.
right here I was doing it. Did I not? Did I not walk to your office and say I was going down to the?
Yes, you did.
Okay, so I did a little due diligence is what I did. And I didn't throw it on the police. I went to the police for answers for this board. And I made it very clear day one before I went anywhere that I was going to the police chief, I was going to the mayor, I was going to the city council, I was going to everybody I could to find out the solutions. And this is some of the solutions that I got now I didn't put all these up there, but I put a couple of them, I brought a couple of them up there. But I have no way, shape, or form put this on the police. The police responded to my questions with the CERT team and with more patrols. And that's what I got out of that. So please don't say that I did put this on the police, because I did not do that.
Okay, so we've got, a motion, a second, more discussion, almost completed vote. Or did we complete the vote? Somebody know? How many
We have
opposed did we have?
5-3.
How many opposed did we
No,
have?
that is actually wrong, it was 5-2.
5-2-1
president.
Oh, you were, yeah, okay.
5-2-1.
Okay, so, motion passes. So, all I'm asking is the city, that the city folks notify the city council of our opinion on that matter. Discuss future goals and vision for Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I don't think we have any agenda items here, do we? Do you guys have any agenda items for that? I don't think there is any this meeting. With that being said, I think we're, well, real quick, does anybody have anything that they wanna, look at next meeting? Is there any, we'll get an opportunity to do that, but I'm just curious. So, I don't know where to take this conversation we're having about the restrooms, and I think we're done with that for now. Are y'all okay with that? We're done with that for now, and we'll wait and see what the city council does with it. And, if they wanna drop it back in our lap, I'm happy to help do that. Okay, if not, we're meeting when again?
March 25th,
March
at 4.
25th, is that a same day, the
It's the fourth, Monday, yes.
fourth Monday? 4 p.m.?
Yes.
Has everybody got that? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks for being here. I appreciate y'all's input.
Thank y'all.